It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. This is the C block, the Charlie block, which means we started right around 7:40 or so, and we're actually somewhat on time this morning, 7:41. And if you want to listen to this show, we're doing it live right now between 7 and 8 o'clock on 104.5 Westplex Talk, the old KSLQ. If you want to listen in the future, it would be to bjshow.co. That's the traditional podcast version. If you go to bjshow.us, that is the YouTube version of it. Both reasons, both ways for you to listen to the show into the future. John, are you ready for this? Are you ready?
Yeah, let's call your buddy Bill. B2 Bill.
B2 Bill. Okay. The phone is, here we go again. You know, this is a perfect example of why sometimes I hate technology. Let me try this again. Okay, we're doing this right here. Let's try this. See if it's going to work. Yes, it's working. Woo. We're calling Bill Eigel.
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
Hey, Bill, it's your buddy Brad Hildebrand. I'd love to have you on the air. Matter of fact, we've got about another 18 minutes to go. If you want to call me back, we'll still get you on 314-280-8880, 280-8880. I want to ask you about your ideas for St. Charles County. That's what I'm interested in. Once again, Bill, 314-280-8880. Okay, John, that's not going to work, so we'll go to Plan B, which is, what's Plan B now, John?
Well, you had a few anecdotes that you wanted to say. You did, and I gave you grief about it yesterday because at the time I didn't believe you, but I know you were actually serious. You talked about fastfoodmediet.com on a radio show yesterday. Can you tell us about it, Brett?
It was not a live show. It was recorded. It'll run this weekend. It was Todd Showalter, who we had on the air a couple weeks ago. Todd Showalter.
Yeah, last week. That's awesome, Brad.
Is the cartoonist who is an extremely talented guy. He does a show on what is it? I call the Refugee Station.
News Talk STL.
News Talk STL. And
does he do just a weekend show?
Yeah, they do it on Saturday. They do it on Sunday. Cool. It's him and his partner, Joey. And I thought it was going to be like a quick little 5-minute deal. I was on for like 20 minutes. Now, wait, when they edit up the show.
Could you talk about one topic to death for 20 minutes, Brad? That's surprising. That doesn't happen 3 times a day on this show.
Well, they were very incredulous about my fast food diet because they were both asking me questions about, well, what about fruit? What about vegetables? I go, what? Fruit, vegetables? What are those?
Yeah, what are those? They're not even in your lexicon.
Right. And I gave my analogy of which is worse, to have a deficiency in fruit and vegetables or to be obese. Because when you're obese, you are a tendency to get, other diseases. You get, diabetes and things like that.
It's bad for your joints. It's bad for everything.
Right. When you're slim and trim and you lose weight, it's good for your whole body. And who cares about all the crap? I mean, you can get vitamins. Come on, you go to the store and you can buy vitamins. Who needs good food when you can just chuck down some vitamins? I got my bottles here. I got my potassium and all that kind of stuff. And I've got my magnesium, potassium. I've got my E and all that kind of stuff. That's why I'm the fit and fiddle guy that I am. But the interesting thing was what Joey brought up was this is interesting because I didn't see this one coming. Joey is a fan of radiopoop.com. And so this is so bizarre. And he said it was gone for a couple of years. I mean, he follows it. I go, yeah, it was. I took it down and it's back up again. And I have not done a real good job of updating it.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that you started a project and didn't see it through consistently with precision execution, Brad? Tell me more.
How did I know that was going to happen? John was going to say that. And he asked me why I did that. And I told him. And I said, what's interesting, and they asked me about the whole thing. And I told him, I said, look, I appreciate the fact that you're having me on your radio show. Todd, I had you on my show, and you were on with Brad and with John and
I got to interrupt. Did anybody ask what is the effect of a rising tide, and does it have effects on other boats, Brad?
Yeah, all boats rise. So
wow, okay.
And I told him about the fact that once upon a time, in the Post-Dispatch, there were people who wrote about media. You had, in the old days, it was Jerry Berger. Then it was...
Yeah, Dan Caesar on the sports side.
Well, Dan Caesar on the sports side, but then you had Eric Mink. Remember Eric Mink, who was like...
I do remember him. He was a Jewish guy from New York.
Right. And then and even markets and other markets, there's a guy now up in Chicago, and I think he retired from one of the papers, but he still does a lot of this stuff on his own website. I think his name is John Federer, and he follows the local media. And I told him, I said, nobody follows this anymore. And I explained to him, I go, here's what's sort of interesting. You should ask me, you specifically should ask me this question. Why I started it was we had this incredible explosion in the market. It's been like 4 or 5 years ago, I guess, where you had a bunch of disgruntled people who worked at 97.1, and they went in different directions. I said, Tracy, went in her direction. She started her own radio station. Your two bosses, Joe and John, got fired from the station, and they started their own, from 97.1. They started their own station. Jamie Allman got fired. He ends up on the Patriot. So all of a sudden, one day, we have one FM talk station, and a month later, we have 4 FM talk stations. And I said, I chronicled that.
And what was good, let me interrupt, Brad. What was good about that, and that what this gentleman, Joey, notes, is that if you're super into insider radio talk, you're not going to get that information anywhere else. Now, if you're driving through the Westplex listening to us, you would have turned it off 4 minutes ago because you don't care about the 3 J's and I told them and they did this, and you don't care, and you change the station. But for a tiny, tiny sliver of people, this stuff is actually really interesting.
But even to the point where not necessarily local, because you told me that Miss Bell from mid-Missouri, who you're good friends with, who is on, what station? She's on 93.9 The Eagle, correct? And
correct, yeah.
And she's a prominent, Stephanie Bell, she's a prominent mid-Missouri attorney. You told me that she read my site all the time. Remember you told me that?
Yeah. I mean, I put her on to who Brad Hildebrand was. But yeah, you're right, Brad. I have helped. We know that. But yeah, Brad, I mean, when I point people to stuff, they do see it and they do read it, yeah.
Well, it was a good interview. I mean, and he texted me and thanked me, and I said to him, I texted him back, I go, Todd, anytime you want to come on the air, I'm more than happy to help you because of the fact that here's what I think is interesting what they do. They do a humorous show. It's sort of like what we do. It's not like Josh Kraushaar is going to talk for the next hour on politics in Jefferson City or wherever. It's like Boring City, okay? And what's interesting about this is, and I know if you're not some of the people who maybe, are not dyed-in-the-wool Republicans when I say this, Rush Limbaugh did it the way it should have been done because he made it fun. It wasn't boring. He had fun. And part of that was, and I say this because he was an ex-jock. And the perfect example of this was he got, turned out to be this huge monster mega media mogul where he was like, went from being a nothing to the point where he was being invited to the White House by the various presidents who were the Republicans at the time. And part of it had to do with the fact that he was entertaining. And then remember the Democrats said, "Whoa, we're going to do a show just like that. We're going to counteract Rush Limbaugh." And they did, what was it called? Air One, or was it
Air America?
Air America. And it failed because you know why it failed, John?
Because Democrats and liberals aren't funny.
It was boring as hell, and all they did was
and they can't other than poking fun at white men. Or today poking fun at Donald Trump.
Right.
You're not allowed to be funny because you can't hurt anyone's feelings.
And all they did was yell and scream and jump up and down and stuff like that. And the point being is that what you and I do from time to time, I have people that comment that they like our show because you and I have this interesting relationship where you make fun of me all the time and you cut me down all the time. And I say things that you make fun of all the time. Like, what's some of my key phrases that I have? There are people who listen to the show now who listening literally have
Well, if you're an avid listener, one of the things that we haven't talked about is that the next time you're around someone young who's singing Baby Shark, put one of Brad's lean-to phrases, matter fact, in, and it becomes matter fact, matter fact. Yeah, once again, here we go again. Matter fact, do.
Okay, so Todd and Joey, and what's interesting about it is if you look at their Facebook pages, this is what's fascinating to me. This is why I'm a fan of both of them, especially Todd. They do so much promotion for a 1-hour show. They do interesting little video clips. They do interesting little pictures that they take of themselves doing crazy stuff. Hey, our show this weekend. And I'm thinking to myself, these guys are really good at what they do. And the crazy thing about it is they're not radio guys. They're what they do is they come at it with a different angle. And it's to the point where I have had people say to me, well, if I ran your radio station, I say, hey, you want to do it for a while? I'm sort of tired. You run it for a couple months, see what the hell happens. Well, I don't want to do that. I go, you know what? I'm all for the fact that you have these people, disruptors who come along and change life forever. Elon Musk is not an automotive engineer, nor is he a rocket scientist, nor he was a computer expert. But yet, what do you have? You have the Tesla car brand, which is shaking up the car industry. You have SpaceX, which is now being contracted by NASA. And you have internet in the middle of nowhere where you couldn't get internet with Starlink, okay? And go on through all the other people like that. He's a disruptor. Sometimes people from the outside can see things that people from the inside can't. And then there's the other side of the coin that sometimes people from the outside will say, hey, this Cracker Barrel, it doesn't look right. We need to clean it up. We need to take down that crap off the walls. And that logo with that old guy leaning against the Cracker Barrel, we need to get rid of that.
Yeah, we need to get rid of Uncle Herschel.
Right.
And Brad, you had teased previously that you had an uncomfortable or disappointing interaction with an advertiser. You teased this on Friday and then we never got around to it. Do you want to tell us about that?
I don't know if I do or not. I don't know. I mean, sometimes what's frustrating to me is that when we are ultimately selling advertising, and I'm not like Joe Slickster sales guy, hey, our numbers are really hot, and in women 25 to 54, if you advertise with us, they're going to come and they're going to remodel their kitchen just because they heard your ad in the radio. I'm not that guy. And to the point where what I'm doing is, and I get asked all the time, what are your ratings? I don't have any ratings. What do you mean you have ratings?
And let me interrupt, Brad, because someone who's interested in advertising on the Farm Show, of course, asked, hey, can you send us, your Nielsen ratings? Like, we'd love to advertise. And, of course, I had to disappoint them and say, yeah, we don't pay for Nielsen, so we can provide you absolutely zero insight into our audience.
Well, and the problem with that is then they go, and I've told the story before, John, in order for me to do Nielsen, I had to pay $25,000 a year. I mean,
I know, yeah. Which is a pretty penny, right?
Right. For me, it is. I mean, for Odyssey or for
iHeart. So it's a self-perpetuating thing. I can't give an advertiser any hard numbers about listenership. We've done no focus groups. I have no data to give them. And when I was working at Monsanto, if somebody would come to me with that, I would laugh at them and say, that's adorable. We'll be in touch.
And you never talked to them again.
Yeah, I mean, I would never talk to you because you couldn't give me any ratings.
Well, but it is. But see, the interesting thing is how I counteract that. I've told you the story before. If I have an advertiser that says, "Well, I don't know, radio doesn't work," blah, 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 I give them, "Hey, I'll give you the advertising for a month for free," and I get
you've been through that before, Brad. So, Brad, do you want to talk? I'll ask you a third time. Do you want to give an example of that conversation that you had that was disappointing for you?
No, I don't think so. I mean,
okay, that's fine. I understand. I'm not pressuring you.
Well, it comes down to the fact that, I'll talk about it a little bit. It comes down to the fact there were two things that happened in the same week. One of them involved an advertiser on the station, and I think I told you this when he wrote something on his Facebook page, and I addressed it, and he was bad-mouthing media. Well, media people, all they want to do is sell me more advertising, blah, 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 blah. And I essentially tried to propose to this guy, and he got mad at me and told me I was being pushy. And I'm going like, okay, dude. And at that point in time, I'm going like, okay, you speak with forked tongue. On 1 minute, you're on YouTube complaining about advertisers. All they want is more money. And I'm approaching you with a pay-for-play kind of deal where if my advertising works, I make more money, you make more money. If my advertising doesn't work, you owe me nothing. And essentially, that's what he was proposing on his Facebook page. But when I proposed that to him, he had no interest in it. And then the second person I talked to said to me, well, you're just a radio station. And the interesting thing was this person was telling me about all the clients they had that they bought a remote broadcast package for KFNS. I don't think did I mention this before?
No, you didn't.
They bought a remote broadcast package. One of their clients, against their will, said, I'm going to buy a remote broadcast package from KFNS because I want the boys from KFNS out here broadcasting live at my store. And, and she's going like, well, it didn't do anything. I said to her, you know what? I turned down a deal, and this is a true story. I turned down a deal last month where an advertiser, which fairly heavy budget, essentially said, we want to do this, and you have to do a remote broadcast. And I said, sorry, we're not doing it.
And why didn't you want to do a remote, Brett?
Because it would make no sense for them. It would be like...
Okay, and so you didn't want to take their money for something you knew wouldn't be successful.
Yes, because the problem is, here's the problem. The problem is they're thinking, in their mind, oh, remote broadcast. People are going to come from far and wide to, see these people talk on the radio.
And then when they would be disappointed, then in the future, you wouldn't be able to make sales to them. And more importantly to you, Brad, as a radio guy, if they had a bad experience with a radio remote package, they'd be less inclined to buy radio from anyone in the future.
Exactly, and that's
Thank you. I finished your point for you.
That's what the conversation with this woman was. She gave me 2 examples of of clients that she represents that did things with radio stations, and I said to her, well, they wasted their money. And she goes, well, the radio stations. I go, well, once again, if I recently had. I don't want to go too much into the story because I recently had a medical situation where I went to 2 different doctors. And one doctor says, oh, yeah, I can help you, Brad. But, and he tried to upsell me on 2 or 3 different things. And I thought to myself, I don't know about this. I went to another doctor, and the doctor essentially gave me the same diagnosis, but essentially says, yeah, I think we can help you out with this. And he didn't try to say, and we're going to put new seat covers in your car, and we're going to put white walls on your wheels. And
the point is that on the second doctor, the latter one, he has more credibility because he's not trying to just make a buck. He's looking out for your best interest.
Exactly, John Combest. Exactly. And that's the whole thing. And that's what's frustrating to me. And then the other thing was when both of these people say, well, you're just a radio station. And I go, you know what? I've got, I don't know how many, talk to the smartest woman in the world who keeps making fun of the fact that there's a running joke between myself and Agnes. It's her joke, is that when I die, she's going to have my tombstone engraved with all my websites, and the tombstone will have to be 40 feet tall because I have all these different websites.
Hey, Agnes, that's my joke for Brad. What are you doing? Has Agnes had that joke longer than I have?
I think right now I'm running 24 different websites. And when I said to this woman, I said, I have 24 different websites, and they all have banner ads on them, and they all have links. We can have all these websites with editorial on them, with backlinks to your client, and with video. And she was like, you have that many websites?
And so, Brad, let me interrupt. So if I'm the business owner, I say, I'm actually interested in that because that's actually appealing. And then when I say, can you send me your stats, you don't have them, or you don't have them in a way that a business owner would be able to say, oh, wow, that's actually impressive. What percentage of these are bots? You aren't able to tell her that. No. So what's the point of 24 websites that get 6 visits a week? You get what I'm saying?
No. But that's the interesting thing is that, see, to the point where I have clients that have said that to me, and I go, I will send you an email every night at midnight, which will give you the recap of what you're...
And they don't want that because that's a waste of time.
Right.
They say, give me a weekly update.
And I can do that as well, too. And then when I do it, they'll go like, well, are these real numbers? No,
yeah,
I made them up.
I wouldn't believe it because they're going to... Like, 10,000 people are not going to Westplex Talk a day. Like, we know that those are bots or they're Google
John,
pages scanning and crawling the website.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
Brad, come on.
You don't know that, John.
Okay.
I mean, like, okay, John.
This is where you would lose if you sat with a serious business person. You would lose credibility because they would say, Brad, 10,000 people a day or 500 people a day are not going to WesplexTalk.com.
John, I mean, I can tell you an interesting story that I looked at the analytics. Matter of fact, you see the analytics as well, too. Look at the podcast. I think it was last week we had a spike. All of a sudden, one day, we had 1,500 downloads of the Brad and John show. How did that happen, John?
Maybe I'm guessing it's probably a bot going through and scraping some of the information.
Or, John, it could have been something that happens on the internet all the time where somebody picks up something that is interesting to them and they promote it and it becomes the V word, viral, John.
Is that how the internet works, Brad? I'm brand new to this thing.
John, see, the interesting thing about this is that you're pessimistic. Oh, it's got to be bots, and you're essentially saying see, here's John Combest. John Combest in high school, he goes to first day of school, and John's a good-looking guy, but yet John doesn't think he's a good-looking guy. And a buddy comes up to John and said, "Hey," and
says, "That girl wants to go out with you," and I say, "No, they're not." Brad, it would be awesome if internet stats were entirely believable. And I know that we're at the end of time here, but like we got a thing from an unnamed company about possibly commercializing or being able to raise ads. And I'm sure that that's not real. But if it is, that would be awesome. And the thing is like real businesses with real traffic are able to convert it into something valuable. And if it's real, it'll become something valuable. Right, Brad?
John, you're Mr. Pessimist, I'm
Mr. Realist. You're right, Brad. Thank you for that compliment. And you know what? Agnes and I'd love to stay in chat, but Agnes and I are going to go back to snarfitup.com and see if we can squeeze that along with Fast Food Me Diet onto your tombstone.
John, and can I be honest with you?
Yeah.
I make a fair amount of money off of snarfitup.com. I mean, that's actually one of my profit centers at the radio station. And it's crazy as it may sound, I make serious money off of that site. Serious money off that site. And I know you don't believe that, and it's to the point where if you want, I'll show you my PayPal account sometime. And
I don't need to see it, Brad. What are you going to do with that money, Brad?
What do I do with that money?
Yeah.
I spend it on hookers and blow. That's what. Come on.
But you should also consider, I wonder if there's an opportunity to ever invest that money into a show you have that's actually popular, that people actually listen to.
John, what do you think I'm doing? I'm doing video promos, and I'm putting them out there. I'm putting them all sorts of places.
I love the AI videos, Brad. They're incredible. They're very funny.
and John, honest with me. Okay, you know what to look for. But aren't they scary good?
They're so they if I sent them to people, in fact, I might send them to some friends today because they look so real, Brad.
They are so good, and it's me taking see, that's another thing. You took
a course, Brad.
And I'm still taking it. I'm learning crazy stuff from this. It cost me $99 for this course. I'm telling you. And see, there's the interesting thing. I got a bachelor's degree. I got a master's degree. Okay, this to me is a college level course that would cost me, I don't know, what one course at Washington.
A whole lot of money, Brad.
One course at Washington University would buy $6,000-$7,000.
Yeah, and there's also a course at WashU that has you look at the clock and say it's 8:03.
The point being is I'm doing things, I'm learning things and pushing the envelopes of what we can do for clients. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to better what you and I do, promote our show, stuff like that. And
you have had, Brad, sarcasm aside, a great 3 months, I would say. And I don't know what's changed for you in your life in the last, say, 3 months, but you had a great summer. And there are projects that for the first time, when you would talk about a project, I would think there's a chance that Brad will actually put time and effort into this and actually see it all the way through. And you actually have started following up on things. I don't know what's changed in your life in the last few months, Brad, but it's a welcome change.
John, here's the problem with me. I'm an old guy. Most of the people my age are retired or dead, one or the other, okay? I still am driven by what I do. I still wake up in the morning.
I know. And can you accept a compliment, or do you buzz past it and not acknowledge it?
No, I appreciate that. But see, here's the interesting thing.
And then you have to follow that with a but.
No.
I appreciate that but. What's the caveat, Brad?
Okay, the situation is you and I do this show, and you may laugh about the fact that I can't prove numbers through Nielsen and stuff like that. But the interesting thing is it gets impact. People follow it. And here's the point. Well, nobody listens live. The only reason they know about the show is because I tell them about it on Instagram or on Twitter. But see, the interesting thing about that is like nowadays with media, it's not one source. It's not like you read it in the Post or you saw on Channel 5. It's multi-dimensional media.
I agree, Brad. You know what's multi-dimensional? The fact that it's 8:04.
It's actually 8:05, John. Okay.
All right. I'll see you tomorrow, Brad.
John's got to go. He's got a date. Okay.